Welcome, everyone, to Buddha's Center. My name is Jeff Allen. And once again, here we are. It's Thursday night. If you're listening to this, you've made it here. You have another opportunity to become a bodhisattva if you are not already one. We're studying how to become bodhisattvas, how to generate the mind that aspires to enlightenment, bodhicitta, which is the entrance to the Mahayana, entrance into the pathway that allows us to become Buddhas ourselves. And without this mind that aspires to enlightenment, it doesn't matter what practice we do, how high we think the practice we do is. Without this wind, the mind that aspires to enlightenment, pushing us in a direction, we will not be pushed to the direction of Buddhahood. No matter how wise we are, how much wisdom we have, how much understanding of the Madhyamika Prasangika we have, if we don't have this love and compassion that is generated for the sake of all sentient beings, this mind that wishes to become the Buddha for the sake of everyone, we will not be able to become a Buddha. So it's so precious that we're learning all of the steps that will allow us to do that. And we've been learning it in such a clear fashion through Panchen Sonandrapa's general meaning of perfection that we can all rejoice in the fact that we've heard the information that will be necessary for us to become bodhisattvas. We've learned through these various categories and so forth all the details that we can dive even deeper into about how we would generate this beautiful mind. And then this evening we are talking about the benefits of getting that beautiful mind. So without further ado, we'll get started. We're not going to do all of the same visualizations that we always do. We're always going to switch it up a little bit. So this evening we will do some of the visualizations. But so just follow my lead. So everybody get into the 7-point Vairocana posture. One of the great positions that was taught by Master Kamalashila. We find it in the Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand. We find it in Lama Tsongkhapa's great treatise on the stage of the path to enlightenment. We find all of these wonderful instructions on how to meditate and the actual sitting posture. And we find the 7-point Vairocana posture is one that is emphasized. So we get into that posture in as best as we can. So we put our legs into the cross-legged fashion, preferably into the Vajra posture, our right hand on our left with our thumbs touching, making for a diamond, symbolizing a union of method and wisdom. Our back straight, like it says that our vertebrae like a stack of coins, and our shoulders in a comfortable position, allowing for our arms to bow out. We see the picture of the great master Marpa Lotsawa, whose sitting posture is very precise. And he says that this is one of the things that makes his meditation posture outshine others, is that it's very strict. And this allows him to be able to achieve a very clear mind and his realizations and dependence upon this posture. So now we have our shoulders in a comfortable position. That's number 4. Number 5, having our head slightly forward, and then our eyes slightly open, pointed at our nose, and our mouth in a comfortable position with our tongue against our teeth. So these are 7 points that we've gone over many times, and now we begin to breathe in and out. So we breathe in and out through our nose, filling our lungs. Make sure we're filling our lungs, not just breathing into our stomach, filling our lungs and our diaphragm all the way to what we possibly can, but not in a forced fashion, just filling them up. And then exhaling. It's very important that we're doing this in an even fashion. We're not trying to breathe in too quickly or breathe out too slowly. It's supposed to be very even breathing in and breathing out. We're filling up a specific amount and we're exhaling that specific amount. So we're trying to make sure that our inhalation and our exhalation is like a very even stream. Not too quick, not too slow. So we're in the 7-point Vairocana posture, and we're breathing in through our nose, filling our lungs and our diaphragm all the way, and then exhaling. And as we exhale, we're counting the number 1. And then we'll do this for some moments and try to get our mind to a more neutral state, kind of get centered to a place where we can really listen. We aren't bringing in some of the things from the outside world here. And we're just really trying to focus on how to become Buddhas for the sake of all sentient beings. And the only way we can do that is by first bringing our mind to a set place of neutrality, a fertile ground from which we can grow all of these amazing realizations that we will need to grow in order to become Buddhas. So we begin breathing in and out through our nose and focusing only on the breathing in and out and the counting of the breath. Now, as you're breathing in and out, still focusing on the breath and the counting, imagine Buddha Shakyamuni in the space in front of you, 2 feet in front of you, at about eye height, about 2 inches tall, about thumb height. That's about how big the Buddha should be. 3-dimensional, beautiful, glowing, radiant, pure body. So now imagine breathing in and out, focusing only on the breathing in and out in Buddha Shakyamuni. Anything else other than that, push away and bring back to the image of Buddha Shakyamuni in the breathing in and out. Now feeling so calm, feeling so happy, you've been able to think about the most glorious being that can be a Buddha, with all the excellent qualities of enlightened body, speech, mind, and enlightened activities. All those pure, pure qualities, and you're able to think, even if it's just for a moment, about this great being that you will become. And now imagine that Buddha Shakyamuni, that great being, explodes into the entire merit field. Imagine that the whole entire merit field has been contained within Buddha Shakyamuni. An all-in-one visualization. So now imagine that the entire merit field explodes out of Buddha Shakyamuni. And now imagine that all the Gurus, Buddhas, and Bodhisattvas are in the space in front of you. Imagine that all the Lamas, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Kensur Geshe Wanda, Geshe Dorji Damdu, Geshe Aga, Geshe Ma Tenzin Ladran La. All these holy, holy beings are in the merit field in the space in front of you. Geshe Lobsang Gongpo. All these beings you've had contact with. Demalocha Rinpoche, Lama Zopa Rinpoche. All these holy beings are in the space in front of you. And they're all so happy that you're here. So proud that you're doing something to become a Buddha. So rare that we do good things in life. So rare that we engage in things that matter so much. And all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are so happy that we're doing that. Now imagine that you've led every single sentient being here. Imagine that you emanate many arms as there are sentient beings, and you bring them all here. The hell beings, the 8 hot hells, the 8 cold hells, the hungry ghost beings who are so tortured. The animals, bringing them all here. Humans, every type of human, you bring every single human being here. All the demigods, all the gods, imagine that you're bringing them all here. All the beings who are in cyclic existence and suffering. Imagine that even those beings who still want to remove obstructions to omniscience are here, and they're figuring out exactly how to do that. And all the Gurus, Buddhas, and Bodhisattvas are so happy that every single sentient being, every being who hasn't crossed from the 10th Bodhisattva ground to the 11th resultant ground, every being that isn't a Buddha yet is now assembled here and is learning exactly what it does to become a Buddha, learning exactly all the steps and the processes. And those beings who have already realized this mind are so happy that they're here also and able to witness more beings realizing this mind and watching like nurses able to help us. So imagine that now the Gurus, Buddhas, and Bodhisattvas are so full of bliss because all sentient beings are here around you. And now say, may I become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings. The reason I'm here is to become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings. And imagine that now all the gurus, Buddhas, and Bodhisattvas are so happy, and you just see bliss and a smile go over the entire merit field. And now imagine that you and all sentient beings are listening to this Heart Sutra in Tibetan language, and you're being purified. As you listen to this Heart Sutra, you're thinking about all of the stages of the path that are mentioned implicitly within this Heart Sutra that Maitreya and Asanga were so kind to explain to us the meaning of, and think about all this wonder and amazement that we're able to understand because of these kind beings. Think about the path of accumulation, where one becomes a bodhisattva at the first stage and then takes the bodhisattva vow, and then enters into all of those stages that make them a Buddha, that were caused by the teaching shared in common with beings of small and medium capacity. Think through all of those steps as you hear the Heart Sutra. Think through all of the steps of the path of preparation that will be necessary in order for you to have a union of wisdom, of calm abiding and special insight. You have to have this. And once you get to the path of preparation and go through the 4 stages of the path of preparation of heat, peak, patience, and the last mundane state, you will be right at the edge of the state of no longer being an ordinary being and becoming an Arya. So understand that that path of preparation allows you to get to that last mundane stage. And this is all inside the Heart Sutra. And that the path of seeing is where you directly perceive emptiness without relying on a generic image, without any kind of conceptual thought, without anything else but the mental yogic direct perceiver, understanding the nature of reality, the lack of objective existence, the lack of independence, the lack of inherent existence of all phenomena, and of all phenomena. So recognize that at the path of seeing, this amazing thing happens, and then one goes, it becomes the bodhisattva on the first ground. And then at the path of meditation, this bodhisattva is going through all of these stages in order to purify the afflictive obstructions, and then at the last 3 pure grounds, getting rid of the obstructions to omniscience. And all of this is happening on the path of meditation. And then the path of no more learning is that resultant ground of Buddhahood that we talk about. When you see in the Madhyamika Avatara, that 11th resultant ground, once one finishes the 10 bodhisattva grounds and crosses that line, that satsam, that line of demarcation between sentient being and Buddha, is that 10th bodhisattva ground. And when the bodhisattva emerges from that, has finished the path of meditation, is now in the path of no more learning, he or she becomes a Buddha. So we see in the Teata Om Gate, the first Gate is the path of accumulation. And second Gate is the path of preparation. Pargate is the path of seeing. Parasamgate is the path of meditation. And Bodhisoha is that resultant ground of Buddhahood. So when we think about and we hear this Heart Sutra, think about this implicit meaning, whilst understanding that the emptiness of action, agent, and object is imperative to understand. And it's that topic that the Heart Sutra explicitly speaks of, that Madhyamika Prasangika view of emptiness, the emptiness of self and phenomena that has no elaborations, that has nothing left, and that final ultimate truth of the consequence school that's expounded in that second turning of the wheel of Dharma. So understand that second turning of the wheel of Dharma is where the ultimate final truth is taught, and we're so fortunate to be able to analyze this in the ways that we have through Jayangappi Lodru's commentaries and Khenser Geshe Wandak's commentaries that have been so flawless. So this is what we think about as we hear the chanting of the Heart Sutra. Baba Jereji Barada Jimini Majuza, Jagagida Bhagavati Barajamanita, Randea, Bugeda, Jamden Dema, Jereji Barada Jimini, Bomba Jigo, Digidagi Dubadujina, Jamden Bigaju, Bombi Rig, Lungi Gendun Jambodan, Janju Zembi Gendun Jambodan, Daji Dushu De, Tize Jamden Samana, Jawajina, Nandi Dingilan, Yamazo, Yandi, Jaju Samazama, Jambo Baba Janasi, Wanju Jereji Barada Jimazama. Jivanila Namba Najimong about the Lion Ranjin Domanaba Dao, the Nay Sanjay Jitu Zinanamba Jare Bu, Janjamazama Jambo Baba Janasi Wan, Jula, the Gijimezo, Riji Bongala, Jerejibara de Jimba, Samo Juba, Jeba Duba, Deja Labaja, Gijimeba Dan, Jajizamazama Jambo, Baba Janasi Wan, Jugitidan Damba, Jarada, the Evil, the Gijimezo, Jarebu, Rijibon, Rijibongala, Jerejibara de Jimba, Samo Juba, Jeba Duba, De Danaba Jaba. Shade Bomong Abo de Dajan Ranjin, Domanaba Yanda Baja Zudao, Zudomo, Domini Zuzo, Zule, Domini Shemayano, Domini Lejan Zuche Mayano, Dejan Du, so Adam Dujedan Dujedan Nava Jevanando Bao, Jarebo de Dajudanje, Domini de Tseni, Meba Majeba Magaba Jama Meba Jama Rama, Jame Bagama Meba, Jarebo de Domana Domini Lazume, Zome Dujime Dujime Namajeme. Mime name name jime lume ime zume drame jume rome rejume jume do mi game bene ichi game ichi nama shebe bada yama do mariba me riba seba me gashi me gashi sebe bada yame do deshin tu gung wan gon guju wan don go bodo me yeshi me do me ma do ba yame do jare bu de do wana janju sama no no ba me bi je jare ji baro de jembala denji ne de zemla riba me jen do me de jenjila le jenjila de ne de be da jen do zun do nama ju de jan de danje jang jare ji baro de jembala Deni lana me beyanda bazo bi shanju ngo bazo ba zanje zo de to wana jare ji baro de jemenga jiba jemenga lana me benga me nyaba na nyabenga dunya jam je rab ju jiba jemenga me zombe na de ba je ja de jare ji baro de jemenga be ba de ada on ga de bara sanga de bodhi zo a jare bo shanju zamba zamba jembo de ta jare ji baro de jemba la la ba ja de ne jong den de di ding de le jen de shanju zamba zamba jembo ba ba jan zi wan ju la le zo je jawa jin ne le zo Rijibon de Dajano, Rijibon de Dajane, Chituli Damerjan, Dujin Dujaribara de Jimba, Zamala Jebaja de Dejin Jibananjan Jazu Yerang O, Jomden de Digatigati, Tenandamba Jarada, the Budan, Jajizamba, Zamba Jumbo Babajan Rizi, Wanjudan, Tamjedan, Demi, Dibico de Dada Lada, Midan, Lamadan, Juzajibi, Jitin Yeran de Jomden de Zumbala, Nyomba, Do. Ngala jubene jodamba ne nguje do junga yido do jendu baba lama yibu shinzi ne zungan jozo la jazelo agazamare jana razamare agazamare agazamare jana Hagasamara Jashanda Rasamara Bedi Adon Gatekati Paragati Parasangati Bodizo Abagonja Sanjika Yedime Doji Lobodoji Mebodoji Shivadoji Dragi Baji Medu Bija Danjesh Dingoriezo Girin Donja Jeje Wada Medon Bejan Danja Tumbajon Jin Bonzon Joji Daji de Janden Da de Lejo. The fundamental ground is scented with incense and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the four continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this is a Buddha land and offer it. May all sentient beings enjoy this pure realm. Holy Lamas high, wrap the sky of your Dharma bodies in massive clouds of knowledge and love, and let them pour upon the earth of your disciples as we are ready. A shower of rain, the teachings deep and wide. I send forth this jeweled mandala to you, precious Guru. Zanje dan zaji nan la janju badu dani jazuji dagi ji ji bezonanje drola benje zanje druba jo zanje dan zaji nan la janju badu dani jazuji dagi ji bezonanje drola benje zanje druba jo Sanje dan zaji nan la janju badu dani jazuji dagi ji bezonanje drola benje zanje druba jo. The one who is transformed into the reliable guide Motivated by altruism to benefit sentient beings, the teacher, Sugata, and protector, to you I make prostrations. The one who has eliminated the web of conceptualizations and is endowed with the divine bodies of the vast and the profound, who eternally shines forth the forever noble light rays. To you, the Buddha, I make prostrations. I prostrate to the mothers of the hearers, the bodhisattvas and the Buddhas, which through the knowledge of all leads hearers seeking pacification to complete peace, which through the knowledge of path causes those helping migrators to achieve the aims of the world, and through the possession of which helps subduers expound a varieties of teachings. Nyentu she watsu nan gunche ni ji nye shi di ze ganyen dan drola bemba je nan lan she ni ji jikten dendru ze be jang ganda yan dan dembe dunan namba gunden nazo di zumba nyentu janju zembe zoje zanje gini yunde la chazelo. If you are attached to this life, you are not a spiritual practitioner. If you are attached to samsara, you have no renunciation. If you are attached to your own self-interest, you have no bodhicitta. If there is grasping, you do not have the view. So we're so fortunate to talk about bodhicitta. I thought I'd start the class. Tonight we're learning about the benefits of bodhicitta, but let's have a couple of quotes just to kind of cleanse our mind a little bit from these great holy beings, the sutra from the Lord Buddha and the sutras, and then the authentic Indian commentaries. We have so much incredible information and first-hand reverence that we can see. So from the questions of the householder, Viradatta Sutra, it says, if whatever merit there is in the spirit of bodhicitta had form, it would fill the entire vault of the sky and then exceed it. Were someone to fill the Buddha realms with jewels as numerous as the grains of sand of the Ganges, and offer this to the protector of the world, far superior is the merit and offering of one who, joining his or her hands, reverently generates the mind of bodhicitta. There is no limit to the merit in this. So we find this from the sutra teachings, and then also quoting from Panchen Lozan Chujin's, the Guru Puja, we are all very familiar with. So I thought I'd start with these two quotes, one from a sutra, maybe you've read in the Lamrim Chemo, or maybe seen quoted in other texts, and then also a text that we read all the time that talks about this wonderful door, and then we'll get into the main body of the teaching. But I wanted to start off in an auspicious way, and I feel so blessed that we've been able to go over this in such great detail, and that we've had the aid of Rinpoche previously, and Geshe Aga and Geshe Lobsang Gompo. And I just want to say that I really understand the gifts that I've received in being able to present this in any way, shape, or form, let alone the way that this has been able to be presented, also with the help of Geshe Dorje Damdu's wonderful teachings on this. So I just want to say homage to all the holy gurus who are the source of all of our good, who without these holy beings, without these teachers, we would be completely lost. Without these guides of the world, without these role models to make us understand that this is all possible, that we could transform into these kind of beings, we would be so lost. So homage to these gurus who I've had in my life, these lamas, we don't have to use these fancy words, these teachers that I've had in my life, that I've been able to see, like His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Geshe Lobsang Gompo and Khenso Geshe Wandak, and now Geshe Dorje Damdu and Geshe Aga. And Geshe Aga, I just see shining, just like Khenso Geshe Wandak. I knew his root teacher really was Geshe Lobsang Gompo, and I knew both Geshe Lobsang Gompo and Rinpoche very closely, and watched them very closely, and I just see Rinpoche just shining out of Geshe Aga every time I talk with him, and I just don't want to let the phone go. He and I just have this, like, we No, you hang up. So I really appreciate it because he sees that I want to know more and I'm so thirsty for this information. And he knows that I'm thirsty because my mind was so blessed by Kensur Geshe Wandak and Geshe Lobsang Gompo to be able to have this thirst, to never be satisfied with kind of partial instructions that will lead us to partial realizations, that lead us to partial goals we're seeking to achieve. And we were never seeking to achieve partial goals. Our goals we always wanted to reach. And if we want to reach those goals, we have to do what these holy beings have done and have shown us to do. So Panchen Lozan Jutsen, the Guru Puja, says this: as no one desires even the slightest suffering, nor ever has enough happiness, there's no difference between myself and others. Therefore, inspire me to rejoice when others are happy. This chronic disease of cherishing myself is the cause of unwanted suffering. Perceiving this, may I be inspired to blame, begrudge, and destroy this monstrous demon of self-cherishing. Cherishing my mothers and seeking to secure them as bliss is the gateway to infinite virtue. Seeing this, may I be inspired to hold them dearer than my life, even should they arise as my enemies. In brief, infantile beings labor for their own gain alone, while the Buddhas work solely for others. Understanding the distinction between their respective faults and virtues, may I be inspired to be able to exchange myself for others. Cherishing myself is the doorway to all downfalls, while cherishing my mothers is the foundation of everything good. Inspire me to make the core of my practice the yoga of exchanging myself for others. Therefore, O compassionate gurus, bless me so that all the karmic obscurations and sufferings of mother migrators may ripen upon me right now, and may I give others my happiness and virtuous deeds in order that all sentient beings have happiness. So, if you have been paying attention, hearing those words should be ringing bells, just going off in your head like, this is the giving and taking practice. This is the downfalls of cherishing myself. This is the benefits of cherishing others. This is why all beings are equally important. I mean, if you really understand the outline and Panchen Sanandrapa's general meaning of perfection, and you dive into that outline, and you really look at it, any of these texts you read on Bodhicitta, you're going to know exactly what it's talking about. You may not have realized it. It may just all be contrived. It may just be intellectual understanding. But I promise you, you'll be able to take Shantideva's Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life that we'll get into next a little bit. And you'll be able to find all of these pinpoints. So what I'd like to do before I go into another root text, let's look at Pabunka Rinpoche's Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand. It's been just an incredible guide for me. It's the first book that Adrian and I used to call, it should be called Ruins Your Life. Because it really makes everything start to look really differently, really quickly. If you're ready for it to look differently really quickly, it can work out. If you're not ready, it can kind of like go, whoa, wait, and it can kind of like be like getting hit with lightning a bit. But this text, after I read through a few times, and it's quite a thick text. I'm not being like, I've read it a few times, but I've really, in order to be able to speak like this isn't just because, I sat with Rinpoche and just like a cushion, a sponge. I've read, so many texts, not because I'm, this great student. I did terrible in school. I couldn't stand school. But when I found something that gave me goosebumps and could change the way I thought, and as I started to look at it, it started instantly changing the way I thought. It was like this nectar I had never tasted before. And all of these other things that I thought were nectar were really happiness and really truth. These things that I was rushing after. It was explained to me from Shantideva's text by a great Geshe that all of these things that aren't you seeking a real liberation, are things that are just like honey. It's on the edge of a razor that you just keep licking. And you just keep licking it, and it's sweet for a second, and then your tongue just gets cut. And Shantideva says that we're so blind, we're so stupid, we keep licking it, thinking this time it's just going to be sweet only. There won't be a cut. There won't be a suffering of change. It's not going to happen this time. And these teachings really will start to affect our minds and start to show us that everything that we pretty much think is wrong, and that's awesome. It's not depressing. It's not like, oh, now I know that life is suffering. Oh, the first truth is suffering. No, it's liberating to know, oh my God, that's why all this is so effed up, right? That's why nothing seems to work that's supposed to ever in my life over and over again. That's why, oh my gosh, I think, finally, okay, now we've gotten over this big hump of this bad thing that was going on. Now we don't have to worry anymore. Guess what? Behind door number 2, here comes suffering number 2. And then behind door, okay, we got rid of the suffering behind door number 2. But now we have to go through another door because we have to keep moving and go somewhere else. So now we open another door and then boom! We thought we got over the suffering that was behind door number 2, and we had found something that made us so happy, and now door number 3 turns into the same kind of suffering that door number 1 and 2 showed us so clearly, and we just keep opening doors and think something different's going to happen every single time. We keep opening doors, we think we're going to open it, and just taste only the honey. And every time we open the door, we get in there and we're dancing. Woo! And then all of a sudden it cuts us. And we can't believe it happened. Like it's a surprise. It's happened again. Oh my gosh, it's happened to us again. And we never stop to think, why is this happening over and over and over again? Until we start to analyze it and start to look at what the Buddha stated and see if what the Buddha said is true or not. Not because the Buddha said it. Who cares if the Buddha said it? It's just a name. Just a name. Awakened one. Okay, an awakened one said something. What did the awakened one say that was so great that made him be called an awakened one? Why is he awake? Why am I asleep? What does that mean? He's awakened from the sleep of ignorance. When we look at Lama Tsongkhapa's Golden Rosary, the commentary on the Abhisamalamkara, we see that the Buddha is an awakened one, awakened from the sleep of ignorance, opened to omniscience, awakened from the sleep of ignorance, right? So we see that this is what the Buddha has been able to do. Awaken from that ignorant state that we abide in. And that ignorant state that we abide in makes us again and again and again suffer. And the state that the Buddha abides in, that is not ignorant, the awakened state, the non-awakened state that we abide in causes suffering again and again and again. The awakened state that the Buddha is abiding in has suffering that has been eradicated forever and abides in a state of complete bliss. And that's why we just read, look at the difference between us. Look at the difference between you and Buddha. If there's such a thing as a Buddha, we're saying the Buddha never suffers again in his infinite happiness and bliss. Do you have that? If you don't have that, maybe you should listen. Maybe it sounds like something that you'd want to listen to. And then see if it's possible or not, right? Because you don't have that. It'd be pretty dumb to say it can't happen, because there's a being out there saying it happened, and saying there's a logical process to it, and saying that you don't have to rely on blind faith. You can just use your brains. You can analyze this stuff, and you're going to find out that you can do it too. You're going to find out that you have the same kind of mental consciousness that the Buddha had before becoming enlightened, and that mental consciousness can mature into a state of Buddhahood because that mental consciousness is not truly established, and at its most subtle level, it doesn't even see things as screwed up as you do. Just everything arises from that and goes through this filter that turns everything into a mess. But the initial mind, that mind that's at the very, very bottom level isn't doing any of that. It isn't making all of these things up. It's just abiding in clear light. So we can get to that somehow or another. But we have all these obscurations. We have these afflictive obstructions and the obstructions to omniscience that are all just blinding us day and night, making us have everything appear wrong around us and then apprehend it wrong around us. We have all of this mistaken consciousness and all of this this deceptive consciousness that's going on all of the time. Buddhists don't have. Look at the difference. If the Buddhas don't have it and we have it, there must be some connection to that mistaken, this mistaken mind that we have, and this deceptive consciousness, wrong consciousness we have. The Buddha doesn't have either of these. So there must be some connection. The Buddha doesn't have any suffering, and the Buddha has infinite happiness. There must be some kind of connection between the fact that I have these things, the Buddha doesn't have those things, and he or she is free and blissful. I am unhappy and suffering over and over and over again. So that's the kind of information that we're working with, and it's information that we can hash out ourselves. We don't have to rely upon some kind of person who's reliable in terms of telling us. We can look at the signs and reasoning that the Buddha has shown us and arrive at inference to know that it's actually accurate, because it's hidden phenomena. When we look at this, beginningless lives and consciousness and emptiness, this is a hidden phenomena we can arrive upon an understanding of through relying upon a correct sign. A correct sign of saying that all phenomena are not truly established because they dependently originate. If it dependently originates, it's not truly established. All phenomena dependently originate. Therefore, all phenomena are not truly established. If things dependent origination is emptiness, dependent origination is the middle way, emptiness is the middle way. All phenomena are empty. So this is what we look at when we start to look at syllogisms and reverse and forward pervasions, to make sure that our syllogism is good enough, right? And once it becomes good enough, then we can work with it in our mind and prove it to ourselves and meditate on it and get to the point where, using a calm abiding meditation that we're trying to learn how to do by getting closer and closer to the point where we can be on a single object for 4 hours without moving from one place or another, taking that kind of mind, and the kind of mind that has like a laser, bright light of wisdom on what the nature of reality is. And now we have a bright light and we have a steady light that we can see emptiness with, right? We have the steadiness of our mind from our calm meditation, and we have the brightness of the light that's like the wisdom from our analysis. Now we combine those two together, and the light is unwaveringly bright and clear, and we can focus on it to the point where we can see emptiness directly without a conceptual need, without the need of concept, without the need of generic image, without the need of any kind of conceptuality. It's a non-conceptual, non-mistaken knower that's free from conceptuality that occurs using as its object of observation emptiness. So this is something that we can arrive at through inference. We do not need any blind faith for that. So this is the amazing, right? It's so amazing that we can do this, and we don't need anything but a little bit of effort and a little bit of reading and a little bit of thinking, and it grows upon each other. It's just the way that it occurs. So Panchen Sonandrapa's general meaning of perfection, we see 5 categories, right? First category, basis. What is the physical and mental basis one needs in order to achieve aspiring and engaged bodhicitta? You have to look at the teachings before to find that out. I'm not going over it again. We went over it 1,000,000 times. So what do you need? You'll figure it out. Atisha says some stuff, some other Lama says some stuff, and then Panchen Sonandrapa says some stuff, and then you see what we said. Look at the general meaning of perfection and look at the teachings before this. Then next we have causes of getting the mind that aspires to enlightenment. We saw general and specific causes. We went through a whole lot of information about the profound view lineage, where we see the equalizing, exchanging self with others practice, and the extensive deeds lineage, where we see the 7-point cause and effect for realizing the mind that aspires to enlightenment, in the section on the specific causes for realizing the mind that aspires to enlightenment. And then we learned how to smash those two together and make it one continuous meditation in order to get bodhicitta. Wow, amazing, like that we could even in our lifetime hear such a thing that, during the time of Lord Atisha, they were very selective about who got the profound view lineage. When it was passed down to Drone Tompa, Drone Tompa was so selective about who he taught this exchanging self with others practice. He had to be very careful, because he realized that really the 7-point cause and effect teaching for realizing the mind that aspires to enlightenment, taught by Maitreya to his Sangha, was really the public teaching that everybody could handle, and there could be so much misinterpretation because of the emptiness that would have to be understood in the equalizing, exchanging self with others teaching, that he was very hesitant to give this publicly. And here we are, right? Here in the United States of America and wherever else everyone is on all these other places on social media apps. Here we are listening to it. And I'm not so sharp, I'm not so special, but we had Kensei Geshe Wandak as our teacher. We have Geshe Dorji Damdu as our teacher. We have Geshe Aga as our teacher. We have Geshe Lobsang Gompo as our teacher. And they were so kind to us that they didn't say, no, I don't think you guys can handle this. They said, here's a spoon feeding of information to you, fed by spoon. Listen to this information very clearly, and then you'll realize how beautiful this is when you go out into the rest of the real Buddhism world and see what is being presented. You'll be able to interpret any tradition if you're able to look at this very clearly, and you will not make mistakes. You'll be able to interpret other traditions for them. Amazing. I'm seeing it now done in these conferences where these great Geshe scholars are able to explain the Theravadan tradition in such a clear way. And able to teach the Theravadan tradition because of this analysis of text. Not because the one tradition is better than the other, but if you analyze these texts, you can see how they are all pathways that all lead to complete Buddhahood. You could be someone who's, pointing at, Mount Everest and says, Mount Everest is over there, right? And then you could be someone who says, you better go get the guide. And that one guide brings you to the base camp of Mount Everest. Then he says, I can't take you any further. There's another guide that needs to get you to the top of Mount Everest. Then you take that, right? We look at the teachings like that. You're just going to Mount Everest, but you first, had to see, it's over there. And then someone got you over to this place. And then someone gets you to this place. And eventually you end up at the top of Mount Everest. Likewise, all these teachings, the teachings shared in common with beings of small and medium capacity, are those teachings that lead us eventually to Buddhahood. The teachings of the hearers and the solitary realizers were all given by Lord Buddha for one purpose, in order for a being to go from his or her place, from where they are, to a state of complete enlightenment in whatever way, shape, or form is best for them. And then we will learn why, though, it makes the most sense to start at the Mahayana. So anyway, causes for bodhicitta number 2. Number 3, we learned about kind of the definition or the nature of bodhicitta. We found some definitions and so forth. Not going to go over those again. We went over that enough. Number 4, we got into the divisions of bodhicitta. I could spend a lot of time if I went over that again, right? We know how many divisions they were, the 3 divisions, the 22 divisions. There were so many different divisions that we went over in different ways of like lines of demarcations. We said the tsatsams, the measures and so forth, the demarcations between the various bodhicittas, bodhicitta that occur on the learner's paths and those that occur on the superior paths, and then on the pure grounds, and then on the Buddha grounds. We learned about all of these things. So it's just so amazing that we have these things in our mind. We can go back to the previous teaching, we can look at it, and we can understand it more. And then if we can go to even great scholars and ask them questions and ask them about Panchen Sonandrapa's general meaning of perfection, and we can get such a deeper understanding, even more so than the 22 or however many classes we've already been through on this one text, putting this magnifying glass on it. And some of you may say, well, a lot of those classes were just guided meditation where we went over the Four Noble Truths and so forth. Well, if you were listening very carefully, you would know that the causes and the conditions and the powers and all of these things for getting the mind that aspires to enlightenment, and in Nankapel's mind training like the rays of the sun, and in the 7-point cause and effect, the 7-point mind training by Geshe Chikawa in the Lojong, the mind training text, what does it say? First, train in the preliminaries. What are the preliminaries? The teaching shared in common with beings of small capacity and the teaching shared in common with beings of medium capacity. If you don't have a renunciation of the lower realms of cyclic existence, right? If you still cling to this life and you don't have a renunciation, you get rid of clinging to this life and attachment to next life, and so forth, as you start to go through these stages of the path. So if you still have attachment and aren't able to engage in the spiritual practices because you're attached to this life, you won't even see the need to renounce the lower realms of cyclic existence, because you'll be so focused on just now, you won't see a need to do something later. You'll be like a little kid who doesn't want to go to school, but his parents know you need to. You'll be like this one who wants to just play all day, and you'll just play all day because you'll be like the one whose parents didn't make them go to school. And then when you get older, you say, why didn't you give me an education? Everyone else is smart and I'm so stupid. So we have to start there. We have to stop playing around in this life as if this is all there is, and it's so wonderful. And the only way we learn to do that, the only way we learn to renounce that idea and then renounce the lower realms of cyclic existence, is to begin to study the teachings shared in common with beings of small capacity. If we want to definitely emerge from the lower realms of cyclic existence, then we have to practice those teachings. We have to understand what suffering is, right? We have to understand what the 8 sufferings of the hot hell and the 8 sufferings of the cold hell are. And we have to understand what the sufferings of the hungry ghost of hunger and thirst are. We have to understand what the sufferings of the animal realm that we can see even empirically around us. We can see in the empirical world. We have animals. We see how they suffer. We see how they're used. We see how they're like slaves. We see how they have no independence. Even my dogs who live the life of luxury can't get to eat when they want to eat. They don't get to go out exactly when they want to go out. Man, imagine having to do that if there were 4 sentient beings that had 4 different ways that they wanted it when they wanted it, and then I was trying to have to manage that. No, I don't manage it like that. I don't manage it according to their wants and needs. I manage it according to a set schedule that has nothing to do with what they want. So they're like slaves, they're like servants, and they don't have any independence in terms of even their life in this wonderful house that they live in. So we can look at animals and we can see these various types of suffering, and then we generate a desire to emerge from that. And so that meditation that we've been doing before class has been getting us to this bodhicitta. If you've noticed, I slowly added the bodhicitta meditation of the 7-point cause and effect and the equalizing, exchanging self with others into the meditation as we learn more and more about it. So there's been a method to this madness. So then if you want to get out of the all samsara altogether, you have to study the teachings shared in common with beings of medium capacity. There's no way to get bodhicitta if you don't have renunciation from cyclic existence. It's so clear. You can read it over and over and over again in the texts. Even when you look at Lama Tsongkhapa's 3 principal paths, and you're trying to, see your way through all of the points that Lama Tsongkhapa is making, and how, okay, this is the teaching shared in common with beings of small capacity. This is he's talking about all of these, renunciation, bodhicitta, and emptiness. And you see in the 3 principal paths when he defines renunciation, he says it's day and night wishing to get out of cyclic existence. But then there's something else very interesting that I wanted to show everyone tonight, and it kind of supports what I'm trying to say here, the point that I'm trying to make. So I'm going to read a little bit about the 3 principal aspects of the path, and I think it'll ring some bells for you, a little bit about why we've been doing what we've been doing. So we say you can't, in Nanka Pel's Mind Training Like the Rays of the Sun, it says, now that you have renunciation, practice this equanimity and 7-point, and so forth. The equalizing self with others is where you start with equalizing, exchanging self with others practice, right? And so forth. So it says that. So it says here, without pure renunciation, an end to attraction for the pleasures of cyclic existence is unattainable. The craving for existence also binds beings. Thus, from the outset, seek renunciation. Reverse attraction to this life by reflecting on how leisure and opportunity are difficult to find and how life is ephemeral and without span. Reverse attraction to future lives. By repeatedly thinking of the infallibility of karma and its effects and the miseries of samsara. That's what we do when we set our motivations. We're thinking about the 4 Noble 8 sufferings, the 6 sufferings, 3 sufferings. Repeatedly thinking of the infallibility of karma and its effects and the miseries of samsara. Contemplating thus, when for an instant you do not admire the splendors of cyclic existence and remain intent on liberation day and night, renunciation is born in you then. Renunciation, if not tempered by a pure mind of bodhicitta, however, will not bring forth the perfect bliss of unsurpassed enlightenment. Therefore, the wise ones generate the excellent mind of bodhicitta. Swept up in the current of the 4 powerful rivers, tied by the strong bonds of karma, so hard to undo, caught in the iron net of self-grasping, completely enveloped by the darkness of ignorance, born and reborn in boundless cyclic existence, ceaselessly tormented by the 3 miseries, thinking of your mothers in this condition, generate the mind of bodhicitta. So we see this renunciation. We've become experts on suffering. And now we look over, we put glasses on and look at our loved ones. We look at our neutrals, we look at our enemies who we've now established that they're all equally important. They're equally beings that I'd love to benefit. And we see that they're swept up by the current of the four powerful rivers, born and reborn in boundless cyclic existence. I'm born and again in cyclic existence. This is something that I think about, right? When we look at the 6 types of suffering, that's what it says in there. The uncertainty of cyclic existence, being reborn, shucking off bodies, descending from the high to the low, born and reborn in boundless cyclic existence, says Lama Tsongkhapa. That's what we're thinking about the sentient beings. We're thinking about what we thought about ourselves. We're experts in suffering now. We're experts, and we're such experts we know we don't want to do anything but get out of it. That's renunciation. We become experts in what suffering is, the nature of suffering, and we know for sure day and night that's all we want to do is get out of it. We're seeking liberation. Renunciation isn't renouncing like happiness and, oh, I don't want to be happy, better not eat the chocolate. Renunciation is renouncing suffering. So if you don't renounce the 8, 6, and 3 sufferings, how could you possibly want to help others? Shanti Davis says if we haven't realized our own suffering, how are we going to help others out of theirs? It's a dream. It's like a fool's journey, right? Born and reborn in boundless cyclic existence, 3 ceaselessly tormented by 3 miseries. Suffering, the suffering of change, pervasive compounded suffering. Thinking of your mothers in this condition, generate the supreme mind of bodhicitta. So we see that we have to meditate through the stages of the path like this, everyone. If you don't have renunciation, don't skip suffering, don't skip the first noble truth, don't skip the second noble truth, what causes suffering, this ignorance that grasps at the self and phenomena, and this attention that's so screwed up that causes the afflictions, that causes contaminated karma, that causes samsara. Don't miss that point. That point is so, so important. You cannot get bodhicitta if you don't have renunciation. You can't get renunciation if you don't understand suffering. If you haven't meditated on suffering day and night, you will not think to get out of it day and night. So stop doing comfortable meditation. Do uncomfortable meditation and then do breathing meditation and fixed meditation. Go between the two so that you can get your mind calm enough to focus on an object, so you can get your mind calm enough to want to get out of cyclic existence altogether. So it won't be so like, oh, I want to get out. No, I don't want to get out. You want to get your mind to the point where it's like, whoa, 8 suffering, 6 suffering, 3 sufferings. I got to get out. Pabunka Rinpoche says that calm abiding and focused meditation helps you in your analysis. He says it helps you with a life of leisure and opportunity. It helps you realize these things. And we have to understand. Too many people just analyze things. Too many people just try to get their mind to fix. And Lama Tsongkhapa says this in some of the texts. Like, people are thinking they're doing this and people are doing that, and you're not doing both. And that's the problem. You have to do both. So when we're going through this introductory meditation, please don't look at it like boring. Oh, why am I doing this again? If you don't have renunciation, you better be doing it again. I hope you're doing it 10 times a day. I hope you're doing it. Dalai Lama and all these great masters say you should break your meditations up into 18 times a day when you're trying to get shamatha. If you're not doing shamatha and you're doing, meditation on analysis, then analyze this, 18 times a day. Think about this. Think about the fact that these things are so important. So anyway, I lost my track, but that's fine. So what are the benefits of bodhicitta? What better than to read the section of the Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life that is called Chapter 1, The Benefits of the Awakening Mind. So now that, I promised we'd look at Pabunko first, so that's what we're going to do first. I'm sorry. I got off because I was talking about how great Pabunka's book was and how much it changed my life, and then we ended up on a wonderful bunch of points. But here we are back at Pabunka's text. So let's just real quickly look at what the benefits of the mind that aspires to enlightenment are in Pabunka's Liberation, the Palm of Your Hand. So it says that the source of it And the tradition of it is from the fifth Dalai Lama's Jambe Shelung, the spoken words of Manjushri. But then when closer looked at it, it's maybe the eighth Dalai Lama's tutor, Yeshe Jetsun, that has a lot of these points in their texts. But then others say, and would trace back to Pabunka's root guru, they say some came up with this tradition. So I don't know, find out for yourself, become a scholar of liberation in the palm of your hand, and of Pabunka Rinpoche's great works, and then you can tell me. Art Engel's out there somewhere. Art Engel can definitely tell you exactly where all of this comes from. He's such a great scholar in this tradition. Okay, so number one, generating the mind, and I'm actually using their translation of Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand for this. So that's why I want to pay homage to the great scholars who are here and came before us, who were able to blaze this path of translation, who are just so sharp and made it so clean for us, because the translator is really like the eye of the world who lets us see. Without the translation, without the ability to hear the words in our language, it's kind of a fool's errand to listen to it and think you're just getting some blessing in another language. It's just not true. You are getting a blessing. You're getting imprints to be able to connect with it again. But if you hear it in your own language, then you can actually analyze the teachings and you can sever the root of cyclic existence. If you don't sever the root of cyclic existence, you will be born again and again and again and again. No matter how many mantras you do, no matter how many holy beings you are around. If you meet Buddha Shakyamuni in person himself, and he waves his hand and dances and tells you all about the highest yoga tantra, and tells you all about Kala Chakra, and then does all these special blessings in front of you. The Buddhas don't wash away the sins with water. They can't remove their suffering with their hand. They can't give you their realizations. They teach you the truth of suchness, and it's in dependence upon that sentient beings liberate themselves. So we have to understand this in our language. We have to then analyze it in our language. It's wonderful to get the blessings. You see, I chant in Tibetan, and I don't understand every word as I chant it like I would if I was chanting it in English, but I want those imprints of Tibetan. I want those imprints of Sanskrit. I want to be able to meet with these holy beings in those languages that they speak, but who knows what will happen when I die? Am I going to be able to meet with them then at that point? Will I have to wait till 1,000,000 lifetimes later to meet with these holy beings again? Maybe I could become a Buddha in this life, like Milarepa. Maybe I can become a Buddha in this life, like these holy beings that we've heard of that were able to do so. Why would I wait? Why would I say, let me get a blessing so later on I can do it? I have a human mind. I have a human basis. I have intelligence. I can analyze all these fantastic things and talk about all these fantastic things about the world and all these worldly views and politics and all this other stuff. Why don't I get my head out of my ass and start studying something that really matters and will cut the root of cyclic existence, instead of playing around with the truth of suffering and licking razors again and again and again and telling everybody how great the razors I lick are? Because that's what I hear nowadays after living with Rinpoche. When I hear about all the other stuff going on, it just all sounds like worldly chaff. It sounds like the stuff that comes off of a corn husk and you throw on the ground so you can eat what's inside. That's what it sounds like to me. And no, I don't have renunciation, but that's what that stuff sounds like to me. That's what that worldly stuff sounds like to me, because I did a lot of it. I played around with a lot of it, and it just kept tasting like honey first and cutting my tongue over and over and over again. And if I cut it enough, I won't be able to speak. And then what? I won't be able to say anything if I just keep cutting my tongue over and over again. And then I'll die and I'll have wasted this life playing around with a bunch of nonsense. And I've played around with nonsense since beginningless time. And in this life, I played around with the highest nonsenses there are to play around with. And enough is enough, oh mind. My mind has just been in a state of nonsense, playing with nonsense, thinking everything that matters, everything that doesn't matter matters more than everything that matters. I spend a few moments of my day trying to look at this sort of thing, and the rest of my moments of the day trying to make people think that I'm good and trying to be happy in a way that's only going to make me sad. So this is what happens over and over and again. And if I generate the mind that aspires to enlightenment, it says, number one, it's the only door that enters the Mahayana. It's the only door that will allow me to have freedom from suffering and infinite happiness. And we can study why that is. And so you might say, so in this text it says, you might say, okay, it takes less time to become a Hinayana or Hinayana, foe destroyer over here, is solitary realizer. So why don't I just achieve nirvana? Right? I'll be in nirvana. I'll be in this abiding nirvana. I'll have seen emptiness. I'll have this incredible understanding of the nature of reality. And then we'll see what happens, right? I've heard the teachings. It says in the Umagumba Rapsel, in Lama Tsongkhapa's Illuminating the Intent, that the hearers hear the teachings on the Mahayana, so they're aware of them, right? But they're just put them off. They say that, no, this isn't something. Hold on one second. Let me see if I can turn this back on. Hold on one second. Okay. So the hearers and solitary realizers, okay, so they say, I've heard about the Mahayana Dharma. It sounds too much. All sentient beings are too much. I just want to achieve a state of liberation, and later on we'll see what happens. So does that make sense? Maybe you could just do that, and then, but you know what? They've robbed themselves. They haven't achieved their own aims. They haven't achieved the aims of all sentient beings. They still have the obstructions to omniscience. So what does that mean? They're not done. Incomplete path. You could say it's complete. It's incomplete path if all paths lead to Buddhahood. Incomplete path. So now, what does it says in Scripture? If someone was in hell at the time when that being achieved their meditative equipoise of the cessation of suffering and achieved the abiding nirvana, if there's a being in hell at the same time that that being enters an abiding nirvana, that being in hell would have, if they enter the Mahayana, from there, they would become a Buddha before the hearer solitary realizer that is already in nirvana. It's a longer path to even go to become a individual liberation vehicle, foe destroyer first in an abiding nirvana, and then become a Buddha. It takes longer than somebody who was in hell when that person became a Hinayana Arhat. And then entered the Mahayana path. It takes longer for the being in the lesser vehicle to become a Buddha than the being who was in hell when they became an Arhat. Very strange, but it's true according to Scripture. So you enter into the pathway, which is the only thing that can cause you to become a Buddha, and then at that point you're called a Bodhisattva. You become a Bodhisattva when you generate the mind that aspires to enlightenment, and you become an engaged Bodhisattva, as we learned when you take the Bodhisattva vow. So we'll see that in Shantideva's text. We will surpass the listeners and solitary realizers by our spiritual lineage. Our spiritual lineage is one that will cause Buddhahood. The spiritual lineage of the hearer solitary realizer only causes an abiding nirvana. Only allows you to get rid of the afflictive obstructions, not the obstructions to omniscience. And still, there's this innate grasping at appearances in some way that they still have. You, in terms of your spiritual lineage, not in terms of your wisdom. Be careful. A bodhisattva who just generated bodhicitta does not have more wisdom than a hearer foe destroyer. They've seen emptiness directly already. Be careful. But in terms of spiritual lineage, they surpass them. Because now, we just said, they're going to get to Buddhahood quicker. Especially if they generated the mind that aspires to enlightenment. They're going to get to Buddhahood quicker. So the Buddha generated the mind that aspires to enlightenment in hell, remember? That was where the Buddha in a previous life generated the mind that aspires to enlightenment. So that being will get to Buddhahood quicker than that generated at that moment will get to Buddhahood quicker than the foe destroyer will that's already in nirvana from that moment on. Interesting. So their lineage is superior. We will become a supreme field to which all offerings are made. You become a basis of offering to all beings, of gods even, it says, It says the higher realms and the lower realms. You become an object of worship for all these beings because of these realizations that you have, this love and compassion that you have for all sentient beings that's been generated through these two practices of the 7-point cause and effect for realizing the mind that aspires to enlightenment and equalizing and exchanging self with others. So then we'll become a supreme field of merit because we're these beings that are so holy, that are so full of love and compassion, that put others' needs before their own, that will give you their eye if that'll help you and won't even feel pain. That generosity will feel like the most bliss they've ever felt because of the fact that they've been able to fulfill what they said. They've been able to put your needs before their own. So they feel so happy because they know that's the only thing that can make them become a Buddha. And they've said that they're willing to endure the hardships that a bodhisattva will have to endure. So now they're doing it and they're so happy. One of the causes, when we look at what needs to be in your mind in order, and cause-wise and so forth, in order to become a bodhisattva, is this willingness to endure hardship. So now they're actually doing it and they're so happy. And it says you'll easily be able to accumulate extensive merit. Everything that you do, it says in Shantideva's Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, once you get bodhicitta, becomes a cause for enlightenment, even if your mind is distracted, it says. So wow. It says, Rinpoche used to say, even when you're going to the bathroom, becomes a cause for your Buddhahood. You're imagining that you're giving your urine and your feces to the hungry ghost, giving it to beings who will use it, and you feel so grateful that you're doing such a pure activity when you're going to the bathroom. Right? A pure activity when you're defecating. Think about that. Right? That's what the mind that aspires to enlightenment will do to your mind. We will quickly purify ourselves of bad karma and mental obscurations. It's like a shower over our negativity. It quickly purifies karmas in such a way it reduces their ability to rise, and then the emptiness actually purifies them. But that's another story. The wisdom realizing emptiness is the cutter. The bodhicitta has to be there for some extreme things to happen, but you should really understand that you have to have this wisdom to quickly purify. Just careful. We will achieve, because the bodhisattva on the path of accumulation still has the karma to be born in the lower realms. The bodhisattva on the path of preparation at the patient stage, it said, isn't anything it still has the karma to be born in the lower realms, but doesn't have anything to kind of set it off to make it happen. But it's not till the path of seeing that's no longer, there's no longer forced rebirth into the lower realms. So you have to see emptiness. So just be careful when you read stuff. You don't want to misinterpret it. You don't want to say think the Heart Sutra mantra will make you a Buddha. Understand? Okay. We will achieve whatever goals we seek. You want to become a Buddha, right? With bodhicitta, there's a highest goal, perfection. So obviously you can get to other goals with it. If you can get to perfection with it, all the other kind of goals will work out. Long and short-term goals. And in the refuge commitment, it talks about your long and short-term goals. So now we're kind of upping the ante. Any goal you want. This is the one that's really going to make it happen. Buddhahood can't happen with just refuge. It has to be a Mahayana refuge, right? It has to be bodhicitta, the entrance to the Mahayana. If you're a bodhisattva that takes refuge, then now you're heading to Buddhahood, right? So it has to have that. We will become invulnerable to harms and obstacles, right? If you can give someone your eye, you're fine. Harm, right? You have bodhicitta. You're working for the sake of all sentient beings. You have renunciation, right? You have all of these high realizations. We will quickly complete all the paths and levels. So this is the rocket fuel, right? You can't enter Tantrayana without bodhicitta. So the fastest way to get to Buddhahood, when we look at the Mahayana, we have the perfection vehicle and the resultant vehicle. The fastest way is Tantrayana, specifically highest yoga tantra. Highest yoga tantra is a joke. You're telling me, if you're saying you're doing it really, and you have no bodhicitta. And we see so many examples in the Lam Rim, beings who are doing special highest yoga tantra practices and are born in hell as Yamantaka. They don't have bodhicitta. The view of bodhicitta is the key to being able to convert these emotions. The bodhisattvas before tantra start converting negative emotions into path. They've already done the beginners. Imagine what you have to be able to do in the Tantrayana, right? In the perfection vehicle, bodhisattvas start to transform negative emotions. They start some of them. Then the tantric vehicle, they really use them all. They really transform them. Imagine, right? What you're going to need to, anyway. So in order to go through the fastest path, the airplane, as Rinpoche would say, to Buddhahood, you have bodhicitta. So we'll quickly complete all the levels and paths. It's because you can't without bodhicitta. You can't enter a mandala really without taking a bodhisattva vow. You don't get a bodhisattva vow unless unless you have bodhicitta, unless you're a bodhisattva. So are you really? You're just. It's a contrived form. The initiation. It's a facsimile of one. Kids, okay. We will become a fertile field that produces every form of well-being and happiness for sentient beings. So now we become this object, right? Now we're making all gurus, buddhas, and bodhisattvas in front of us, right? In the space in front of us. Now we're them. We're a fertile field for some numbskull like me. Like I become a bodhisattva, then another numbskull like me that's not a bodhisattva can be like, oh, and generate virtue and become a bodhisattva in dependence upon seeing me as a bodhisattva. Right? And dependence upon seeing a bodhisattva is possible. And dependence upon learning from a bodhisattva. Because that's what bodhisattvas would do, right? They come teach us. Until they're Buddhas, until they can really, really teach us clearly. So there we are with that. So those are the 10 points that Pobunka Rinpoche makes in Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand about the benefits of the mind that aspires to enlightenment. Now let's look at what... now we've learned like in a little more detail. Now let's look at what Shanti Deva says. And I really, really want everyone right now, go back into the 7-point Vairakana posture. Get your mind straight. Get your mind clear. Think about these things that we've learned in Panchen Sonandrapa's text. Think about everything. Don't leave any of it out. Think about, all of it as we go through it. Think about specifically the equalizing, exchanging self with others practice, where we see that all sentient beings are as important to me, the downfalls of cherishing myself, the benefits of cherishing others, taking on others' suffering, giving them happiness, seeing their going through all of these different practices that we go through, seeing their kindness and doing this actual exchange, and then wishing to put their needs. Let me restart that. Where we go through, think about the equalizing and exchanging self with others practice, where we go through the various stages where we see that sentient beings are as important as us. See what Shanti Deva says about that. See where we look at the downfalls of the self-cherishing attitude and the benefits of cherishing others. And think about taking on suffering and giving happiness to others, and how that fits into what we're about to read. Right? Think about this generation of this actual exchange we do, right? Where we exchange our needs for others' needs. And think about that. Think about the great kindness others have shown us. And think about this extraordinary attitude where we say, I'll take on myself this task. I'll exchange my happiness for others having it. I'll give them my happiness. I'll give them all my virtues. I'll take on all their sufferings. I'll do it. I'll take on my task of giving all sentient beings happiness and bringing them out of suffering. And then I must become a Buddha to do that. Think about all those points that we made previously as we went through all of this. And don't try not to leave any out. And then let's see where you end up. Respectively, I prostrate myself to the Sagatas who are endowed with the Dharmakaya, as well as their noble children, and to all who are worthy of veneration. Here I shall explain how to engage in the vows of the Buddha's children, the meaning of which I have condensed in accordance with the scriptures. There is nothing here that has not been explained before. I have no skill in the art of rhetoric. I therefore have no thought that this might be of benefit to others. I write this in order to acquaint it with my own mind. For due to acquaintance with what is wholesome, the force of my faith may increase because of these words. If, however, these words are seen by others equal in fortune to myself, it may be meaningful for them. Leisure and endowment are hard to find. And since they accomplish what is meaningful for the beings, if I do not take advantage of them now, how will such a perfect opportunity come about again? Just as a flash of lightning on a dark, cloudy night for an instant brightly illuminates all, likewise in this world, through the might of the Buddha, a wholesome thought rarely and briefly occurs. Hence virtue is perpetually feeble, the great strength of negativities being extremely intense, and except for a fully awakened mind, by what other virtue will they be overcome? All the Buddhas who have contemplated for many eons have seen it to be beneficial, for by it the limitless masses of beings will quickly attain the supreme state of bliss. Those who wish to destroy the many sorrows of their conditioned existence, those who wish all beings to experience a multitude of joys, and those who wish to experience much happiness should never forsake the awakening mind. The moment an awakening mind arises in those fettered and weak in the jail of cyclic existence, they will be named a child of Sugatas, a bodhisattva, and will be revered by humans and gods of the world. It is like the supreme gold-making elixir, for it transforms this unclean body we have taken into the priceless jewel of a Buddha form. Therefore, firmly seize this awakening mind. Since the limitless mind of the soul guide of the world has upon thorough investigation seen its preciousness, all beings wishing to be freed from worldly abodes should firmly take advantage of this precious awakening mind. All other virtues are like plantain trees, for after bearing fruit they simply perish. Yet the perennial tree of the awakening mind unceasingly bears fruit and thereby flourishes without end. Like entrusting myself to a brave person, when greatly afraid, by entrusting myself to this awakening mind, I shall swiftly be liberated, even if I have committed extremely unbearable wrongs. When, then, do the conscientious not devote themselves to this? Just like the fire at the end of an age, it constantly consumes all great wrongdoing. Its unfathomable advantages were taught to the great disciple Suddhana by the wise Lord Maitreya. In brief, the awakening mind should be understood of two types: the mind that aspires to awaken, and the mind that ventures to do so, and is understood by the distinction between aspiring to go and actually going. So the wise understood in turn the distinction between the two. Although great fruits occur in cyclic existence from the mind that aspires to awaken, an uninterrupted flow of merit does not ensue as it does with the venturing mind. And for those who have perfectly seized this mind with a thought never to turn away from totally liberating the infinite forms of life from this time hence, even while asleep or unconcerned, a force of merit equal to the sky will perpetually ensue. For the sake of those inclined towards the lesser vehicle, this was logically asserted by the Tathagata himself in the sutra requested by Sabahu. If even the thought to relieve living creatures of merely a headache is a beneficial intention, endowed with infinite goodness, then what need is there to mention the wish to dispel the inconceivable misery, wishing every single one of them to realize boundless good qualities? Do even fathers and mothers have such a benevolent intention as this? Do the gods, sages, does Brahma have it? If those beings have never before even dreamt of an attitude for their own sake, how would it ever arise for the sake of others? This intention to benefit all beings, which does not arise in others even for their own sake, is an extremely extraordinary jewel of the mind, and its birth is an unprecedented wonder. How can I fathom the depths of the goodness of this jewel of the mind, the panacea that relieves the world of pain and is the source of all joy? If merely a benevolent intention excels veneration of the Buddhas, then what need is there to mention striving to make all beings without exception happy? Although wishing to be rid of misery, they run towards misery itself. Although wishing to have happiness, like an enemy, they ignorantly destroy it. For those who are deprived of happiness and burdened with many sorrows, it dissatisfies them with all joys and dispels all suffering. It satisfies them with all joys and dispels all suffering. Clears away ignorance. Where is there a comparable virtue? Where is there even such a friend? Where is there merit similar to this? If whoever repays a kind deed is worthy of some praise, then what need to mention the bodhisattvas who do good without even being asked? The world honors as virtuous one who sometimes gives a little plain food disrespectfully to a few beings, which satisfies them only for a half a day. What need be said then of one who eternally bestows the peerless bliss of the Sugatas upon limitless beings and numbers of beings, thereby fulfilling all of their hopes? The Buddha has said that whoever bears a harmful thought against a benefactor such as a bodhisattva will remain in hell for as many eons as there were harmful thoughts. However, if a virtuous attitude should arise in that regard, its fruits will multiply far more than that. When bodhisattvas greatly suffer, they generate no negativity. Instead, their virtues only increase. I bow down to the body of those in whom the sacred precious mind is born. I seek refuge in that source of joy who brings happiness even to those who bring harm. So blessed. We see Panchen Sonandrapa just showed us what all of this means. The great Indian master Shanti Deva. We know what he's talking about. We know how to generate this mind that's so beautiful. And not only by way of what's presented in the Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, but also by way of, because that's the profound view lineage. We have this ornament of the extensive deeds lineage to just put all over this. There's no reason we don't become bodhisattvas. Today, please, listen to these words and understand that they are not just being said to sound fancy. They're words that I never believed I would feel the way I do about. I would never think I would be saying such things and feel them the way that I do. I don't have bodhicitta, but I see that getting bodhicitta, getting renunciation, isn't something I read about. I've seen a being with it, with both of those qualities, Khentsur Geshe Wandak. I've seen His Holiness the Dalai Lama. I've seen Geshe Lobsang Gompo. I've seen Geshe Dorje Damdu. I've seen beings who have these high realizations. I know it's possible. And I don't know it's possible only because I've seen them, because I've been around them like a rabbit's foot. I've read what they've read. I've analyzed what they've analyzed. And I've gotten 10% down the road to where they've gotten because of it. But that 10% is 10% further than I would be if I was just wasting my time. And I wasted my time so much when Khentsur Rinpoche was alive. But the last couple of years, I stopped doing that. And now I don't do that. And when I start to see myself doing that, I literally feel like Shanti Deva says, like this person who's in a battle, in a war that's dropped a sword. And the enemy is coming at me with full force and I have no weapon. I literally feel like that. I've dropped my sword and I need to get mindfulness to get back that the truth is the truth that was presented by Lord Buddha in the three turnings of the wheel of Dharma. None of that says that the things that I'm chasing after are going to make me happy. So pick up your sword and start swinging again, so that you can eventually, through the stable body of the ethics of the Vinaya basket and the stable arm of the sutra basket of concentration, and the stable weapon of the wisdom, the Abhidharma basket, I can cut the root of cyclic existence. So we need that body and we need that weapon though. When we drop the weapon, we become unwise, right? The weapon is the wisdom that actually can cut. Can't cut a tree down, right? If we just have an arm, you can hit it all you want, you're not going to cut the tree. You've got to have a chainsaw, right? If you drop that chainsaw, you're not cutting. You're not being wise. Pick it up. Be wise. That's all. So that's my talk on Panchen Sonandrapa's general meaning of perfection. And there was one more point that I wanted to quote. I wanted to quote it directly. That's all right. The book's in the other room. But in the tantric text, we'll do it another time, but it talks about how we can't enter the mandala unless we have our bodhisattvas, because we can't take the bodhisattva vow unless we're bodhisattvas. So if we want to enter the swiftest path, become Buddhas as quickly as possible, because this stinks and we want to fulfill all our needs, right? Completely. and all other sentient beings' needs. Our renunciation becomes so strong that we want to fulfill our needs in a complete way, get rid of the afflictive obstructions and obstructions to omniscience, right? So if we just stop there, it would be pretty smart to be able to get bodhicitta as quick as possible and get on tantrayana. Because without tantrayana, there's no way to quickly get to Buddhahood. And without tantrayana, it starts to get scary at the time of death. Yeah. All right, so let's look back and see if our minds changed at all. Let's see if this seems like we're a little closer or further away. If I did my job tonight, we're a little closer when we're looking at this mirror or tasting this a little more. If you're attached to this life, you're not a spiritual practitioner. If you're attached to samsara, you have no renunciation. If you are attached to your own self-interest, you have no bodhicitta. If there is grasping, you do not have the view. Okay, so now we will, for auspicious reasons, we're going to, hold on. Okay, so we're going to read, we normally read the 8 verses for training the mind. And tonight we're going to read the 7-point thought transformation by Geshe Chikawa. Geshe Chikawa read the 8 verses for training the mind and became obsessed with it, and then went and learned from Sharawa, the equalizing and exchanging self with others practice. So we're going to read that tonight, and then we'll do our normal concluding prayers. 7-point for training the mind by Geshe Chikawa. First, train in the preliminaries. Training in the ultimate awakening mind, train to view all phenomena as like dreamlight. Examine the nature of unborn awareness. The remedy too is freed in its own place. Place your mind on the mind basis of all the actual path. In the intervals, be a conjurer of illusions. Training in the conventional awakening mind, train alternately in the two, giving and taking. Place the two astride your breath. There are 3 objects, 3 poisons, 3 roots of virtue, and all actions trained by means of the words. When the world and its inhabitants boil with negativity, transform adverse conditions into the path of enlightenment. Banish all the one to blame for everything. Toward all beings contemplate their great kindness. With the 3 views and treasury of space, the yoga of protection is unexcelled. By meditating on illusions of the 4 Buddha bodies, emptiness is protection unsurpassed. The 4-fold practice is the most excellent method. Relate whatever you can to meditation right now. In brief, the essence of instruction is this. Apply yourself to the 5 powers as Mahayana transference method is the 5 powers alone. Their practice is vital. The intent of all teachings converges on a single point. Of the 2 witnesses, uphold the principal one. Cultivate constantly the joyful mind alone. If this can be done, even when distracted, you're trained. Train constantly in the 3 general points. Transform your attitudes, but remain as you are. Do not speak of the defects of others. Do not reflect on others' shortcomings. Discard all expectation of reward. Discard poisonous food. Do not maintain inappropriate loyalty. Do not torment with malicious banter. Do not lie in ambush. Do not strike at the heart. Do not place the load of a zo on an ox. Do not sprint to just win a race. Do not abuse this practice as a right. Do not turn the gods into demons. Do not seek misery as a means to happiness. Accomplish all yogas through a single means. Overcome all errors through a single means. There are 2 tasks, one at the start and one at the end. Whichever of these 2 arises, be patient. Guard the 2 even at the cost of your life, and train in the 3 difficult challenges. Adopt the 3 principal conditions. Contemplate the 3 that are free of degeneration. Be endowed with 3 inseparable factors. Train constantly toward the chosen objects. Do not depend on other conditions. Engage in the principal practices right now. Do not apply misplaced misunderstanding. Do not be sporadic. Train with decisiveness. Be released from the two. Investigation and be released through the two. Investigation and close analysis. Do not boast of your good deeds. Do not be ill-tempered. Do not be fickle. Do not be boisterous. Through this proliferation of the 5 degenerations, transform every event into the path for enlightenment. Because of numerous aspirations, I have defied the tragic tale of suffering and have taken instructions to subdue self-grasping. Now, even if death comes, I have no regrets. What a powerful ending, right? Chikawa ends the text. Now, even if I die, I don't regret anything because I've done this. I've done what all this stuff I just said, I've done this. And even if I die right now, I'll have no regrets. And in the Lam Rim, we see that. And in Kensur Geshe Wandak, we saw that. Died right in front of me with no regrets. None. With the determination to accomplish the highest aim for the benefit of all sentient beings which surpass even the wish-granting gem, may I hold them supremely dear at all times. Whenever I interact with someone, may I view myself as the lowest amongst all, and from the very depths of my heart, respectively hold others as superior. In all my deeds, may I probe into my mind, and as soon as mental and emotional afflictions arise, as they endanger myself and others, may I strongly confront and avert them. When I see beings of unpleasant character, and those oppressed by strong negativity and suffering, may I hold them dear, for they are rare to find, as if I had discovered a jeweled treasure. When others out of jealousy treat me wrongly with abuse, slander, and scorn, may I take upon myself the defeat and offer the others victory. When someone whom I have helped or in whom I have placed great hopes mistreats me in extremely hurtful ways, may I regard them as a precious teacher. In brief, may I offer benefit and joy to all my mothers, both directly and indirectly. May I quietly take upon myself all hurts and harms of my mothers. May all this remain undefiled by the stains of the 8 worldly concerns, and may I, recognizing all things are illusions, devoid of clinging, be released from bondage. From my 2 collections, vast as space, that I have amassed from working with effort at this practice for a great length of time, may I become the chief leading Buddha for all those whose minds' wisdom eye is blinded by ignorance. From Lama Tsongkhapa's Lam Rim dedication, that one stanza, and the other was the 8 verses for training the mind. Now we'll do the concluding prayers. Fundamental ground is scented with incense and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the 4 continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha land and offer it. May all sentient beings enjoy this pure realm. I dedicate whatever virtues I have collected for the benefit of all teachings and of all sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teachings of Venerable Losang Drapa to shine forever. I send forth this jeweled mandala to you, precious Guru. I dedicate all this virtue to emulate the knowledge of the hero Manjushri and likewise Samantabhadra as well. With whatever dedication is praised as supreme by all the conquerors who traverse the 3 times, I also dedicate all my roots of virtue for the sake of auspicious deeds. In that pure land surrounded by snowy mountains, you are the source of all benefit and happiness. All-powerful Avalokiteshvara Tenzin Gyatso, may you stay until samsara's end. Ganri Rawe Gore Jinjandi Vendan Dewa Malu Jongwe Ne Genrezi Wan Tenzin Gyatso Yi Shabezi de Badu Denjoji. May we in all our lives never be separated from Kensur Geshe Wandak in whatever form he or she chooses to show us, in the emanation body, in the regular worlds when we're ordinary beings, or in the enjoyment body when we're Arya Bodhisattvas. May we always meet with this incredibly holy being until we become Buddhas. And when we become Buddhas, may we help Kensur Geshe Wandak in whatever form he or she is in whatever form we need to take on to help to free all sentient beings from suffering. Thank you, everyone. We'll see where we go from here. So that concludes the conversation about Panchen Son Drapa's general meaning of perfection. Once again, I just want to pay homage to all of the teachers that I've had that have helped me to understand this to the littlest point that I understand it. I'd like to, make a verbal, physical, and mental prostration to Geshe Lobsang Gompo, to Kensur Geshe Wandak, to Geshe Aga Umzela, to Geshe Ma Tenzin Ladrinla, to Geshe Dorje Damla, to Dema Locho Rinpoche, who gave me the transmission of the five great philosophical texts that blessed my mind to be able to understand this more clearly, and all the other gurus who've blessed my mind with small words and thoughts that I may or may not have mentioned, for whatever reason I may or may not have mentioned. If I've forgotten, may I just say thank you and pay homage and make prostrations to the Lama, who's the foundation of all good qualities. Without the Lama, there is no understanding, there is no realization. The Lama is the Buddha, the Lama is the Dharma, the Lama is the Sangha. Thank you all. I'll
Thank
see
you,
you next time.
Joshua.
I
Thank you so
appreciate
much.
all of you. I hope this is helpful. I hope you become bodhisattvas, and if you're already bodhisattvas, please help me. See you.